Department of Homeland Security is on track to shut down overnight tonight after the Senate failed to pass a deal to fund DHS on Thursday. Our Scripps News congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed joining me now live from our D.C. newsroom. So, Nate, the House and the Senate are gone. The deadline is midnight. So where exactly do negotiations stand this morning?
Well, presumably, Stephanie, they're ongoing, but the reality is both sides are not seeing eye to eye on the best path forward on funding for the Department of Homeland Security, which, again, so much larger than just what's being negotiated right now. They're negotiating funding for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, rather negotiating guardrails to try and put limits on what ICE is able to do. Those roving patrols you've seen all across the country, Democrats are looking to stop those and put in place other critical reforms. The reality is there's a whole lot of other departments and agencies under DHS that are going to fall by the wayside in this partial government shutdown, which at this point cannot be stopped. Congress left for the recess, week-long recess last night. Ultimately, there's no funding for the Department of Homeland Security, and so we will be in a shutdown possibly for a week or longer. Democrats saying they could call their members back to Washington if an agreement is reached. At the same time, urging the Trump administration to use funds they already got as part of the Republican mega bill last year to keep the Department of Homeland Security functioning and to keep Americans who work there paid. Take a listen.
If there's a deal, I expect we will be called back, and that's fine.
What's your message to air travelers then, or people who rely on FEMA for disaster assistance, if they are in a partial shutdown and workers are furloughed and Americans can't access those critical services?
There's absolutely no reason for workers to be furloughed because there's more than enough money to keep those organizations operating for the next couple of weeks.
And look, the irony here, Steph, is that the Department of Homeland Security has plenty of funding for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. As part of that Republican mega bill, they got tens of billions of dollars through 2029 to spend on immigration enforcement. So even though we're in a partial shutdown, ICE and CBP, they're not largely affected. They have their own pot of money that runs through 2029.
Well, with this shutdown basically inevitable now, Nate, we're hearing, ICE and CBP unlikely to be impacted. So what agencies will be impacted with this shutdown once it happens overnight?
TSA, FEMA, the Coast Guard, Secret Service, those are all agencies that fall under the purview of the Department of Homeland Security. We could see workers furloughed, going without pay for an indiscriminate amount of time. To be clear, the Senate leaving on a recess, the House too, for at least a week. Again, they're saying they could call their members back if there's an agreement here. The White House saying that they're willing to entertain good faith negotiations. But, Steph, a lot of questions about whether those negotiations are happening and, furthermore, whether a deal can be reached. Democrats have largely called what the White House has offered inadequate. Not getting into details, though, Senate Minority Leader Schumer repeatedly telling reporters he will not negotiate in public. There's a whole lot of details about these negotiations we simply do not know.
But one thing we do know, Nate, is that the longer any kind of shutdown of a federal agency lasts, the bigger the impact will be, not only for those employees who may be working without pay, but for Americans who might rely on those agencies, like TSA if you're planning to travel in the near future, or like FEMA if there's a natural disaster. Scripps News congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed, as always, thank you very much.